I came here to talk about the current numbers, trade numbers that we saw. What we definitely see is that the share of EU market and trade with EU is shrinking. What is the reason behind that, and is the pandemic the primary reason for that?
As we see, generally due to pandemic, consumption is decreased for those products are mostly exported from Georgia. I mean, alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages. But as we see, there is a growth of exports to CIS countries. But this tendency has been noticed even before. I should emphasize challenges of exporting to EU market facing local companies. One of the biggest challenges actually is the transportation cost and logistics, and another issue is to produce big volumes of the products to enter those hypermarkets and chains in the EU countries. As for CIS markets, it's much easier to access those markets due to transportation issues and lower requirements. But anyway, we are convincing business community that EU market is predictable one, and a reliable partner should be considered as a best option for trade promotion.
In these times of pandemic, we have heard from many business associations to kind of postpone the harmonization process with the EU, which also include those rules that our exporters need to comply with in order to be able to export to EU markets. What is your stance on that?
Anyway, I think that we should try to follow pace of EU association agreement and try to adopt according to agenda. For instance, I can mention few directions which is a priority for EUGBC, and not only for in general for the business. One of the part of the DCFTA action plan is procurement system modernization and reform, and now we are involved in the process of elaboration new draft law. It is crucial to increase competitiveness and to involve more actors in this sector, and even more to promote additional investors in the various directions, somehow linked to the state procurement, public procurement system. So I cannot say that all regulations and most of them should be delayed. It should be adapted according to new reality, and maybe laws should be adopted, but by laws could be adjusted accordingly based on close communication with business sector and finding the best solution and best way outs.
The key word in that answer for me was also bringing investors to Georgia. Do you think these two processes, bringing in FDI, technology transfer, everything that is associated with FDI, is also closely linked to the exporting potential that local businesses also can get?
Actually, I think that pandemic created also possibilities to attract new investors, especially through using Georgia's FTAs with various countries. We are working on this direction, and the state has also interesting program in terms of FDI grants, and it could be additional incentives to bring investors in Georgia. But anyway, we are trying to focus also on specific projects. For instance, in terms of logistics, to improve accessibility to the EU markets, we managed to establish in Constanța a logistical hub, and it is very important, especially taking into account pandemic situation. It will be possible to shift goods directly from Poti to Constanța and to overcome those challenges with drivers we currently have due to pandemic. And from Constanța it will be possible to distribute or to all EU countries the goods, and also vice versa, import from EU countries to Georgia. So this is one of the possible directions could be developed further.
Do you think that could be a driving point for the exporters to focus more on European markets rather than on CIS markets? Because together with seeing the shrinking market share on EU markets, we also see the rising share on CIS markets.
It could be one of the tools to develop this direction. However, there are lots of actions to be taken, including increasing visibility of Georgian products, especially in Western European countries, through various means. I should mention European Enterprise Network. It's a unique opportunity for Georgian companies to find potential partners. However, we need more active participation of state agencies in this direction. They have the right to include in this network Georgian companies, and we may ask state agency to cooperate closely with EUGBC to increase number of Georgian companies in this network. Mm-hmm. In parallel, we are working with various EU embassies, EU states embassies here in Georgia to attract more interests of related companies in all directions, including investments, export, import.
What is in all of this the role of the business community itself? Do you see this urge, this interest from the business as well and does it see the opportunity that accessing EU markets can bring to business?
Actually, business, I think, realizes that EU is a very important market in the future also to develop. But in terms of accessibility, when they see the options to trade easily with CIS countries, they are making mid-term and short-term calculations and immediately exporting. However, as I know from most of the businessmen, they are considering that this market, some of them could be closed easily, and they should adapt immediately to other markets. That's why diversification of export countries is very important, and business realizes this. But in the short term, they should have also plan B in case of embargo or potential embargo.
Talking to the largest association on doing business with the EU, let me put it so. What are some frequently asked questions that you get from the businesses in regards to how to export to EU markets?
Actually, there is a need for finding potential partners, and of course, respective volumes is a key issue from Georgian side. Of course, transportation issues could be somehow managed, but volumes is an important issue. Of course, in terms of wine quality, we do not have any restrictions, and it's the highest, and also non-alcoholic beverages. But anyway, we should work more on marketing issues in Western European countries, especially where we do not have clear vision and knowledge about Georgian products.
You mentioned that one of the barriers is finding the counterparts in partners in European markets. Why do you think that happens so? Because we are hearing from time to time, and that is true, that Georgia is among very, very few countries which has on the one hand FTA with DCFTA and also FTA with China, and considering Georgia's geopolitical location, that could be an immense opportunity for those potential partners of Georgian businesses. Why cannot Georgia capitalize on that?
I would agree, it's a huge opportunity for potential investors to make Georgia as a potential hub and use Georgia's FTAs, not only with European Union and EFTA countries, but it's important that with Ukraine already we have agreement on diagonal cumulation. This means that in case establishment of joint ventures, these factories and plants could benefit from these trade regimes. It's very important. Despite of finding of some potential partners, Georgian companies are facing sort of a lack of respective laboratories and product checks, because in case Georgia does not have proper laboratory, they should send products abroad for tests, and it's costly. For instance, we had the case in terms of a potential export of construction materials even to Germany, but due to these checks and not existence of respective laboratory, this export has been stopped. Not stopped, but could not developed. For instance, other direction was a honey export. A few years ago, we managed to establish contact with one of the buyers, but due to this proper consequences with the EU rules, one of the companies could not manage to send the products to EU. So requirements are in place, but somehow government also should assist development of those tools to support additional exporters to EU countries.
To sum up our conversation, what would be EUGBC's recommendation in this regard? And these recommendations may go to business community, to the government. What do you see as the one thing that needs to be solved in order the pace to take off?
Very important is to develop a judicial system and make judicial reform. It's very important for each investor and existing in Georgia, and each potential investor could come in Georgia. And additionally, it's very important that the government of Georgia announced that by 2024 we intend to apply for EU membership. So we should look to all Copenhagen criteria. It's very important one, and somehow follow of those criteria because it's very important directions contains, including specific economic cooperation development with the EU countries.